Hi everyone, welcome to Lurking for Legends. We're a live videocast that speaks to people from all walks of the publishing world with the aim of getting our guests a little bit more exposure in the tough world of publishing. My hosts, Christy Stratus and Richard H. Stevens, and myself encourage viewers to chime in with questions for our guests or simply comment on what you hear. As you can see, we are down a Christy Stratus tonight, and I haven't got my wig with me, so I can't fill in for her. Something came up last minute for Christy, so I'm afraid you're stuck with just me and Richard tonight. Tonight on Lurking for Legends, we're excited to be speaking with multi-talented author Darío Aguilar Peregrina. Welcome, Dario.
Thank you, David, for having me. Thank you, Richard, again for the opportunity.
You're welcome. So before we get started with asking a few questions and so on, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Okay, well, I'm a 25-year-old writer from Mexico City, and I usually write different themes such as sports, action, LGBT themes, and also music because in Latin America, I think we love a lot of music.
Mm. So you write stories about music, is that correct?
It's correct, and also I prefer to create action ones, inspired by movies such as The Dark Knight from Christopher Nolan, also 28 Days Later from Danny Boyle. And another inspiration, I think, is the Disney Pixar movies, because my mom always put me that when I was a kid. And also because of Disney, I learned to speak English. So it's a connection since I was very young.
And did you say you're 25?
25, Richard? 25.
25, and we'll get into all this other stuff that you do as the show goes on, but that's incredible that you're doing all this stuff and you're only 25. Like,
yeah, everybody tells me that every day.
Yeah, that is pretty incredible. From what I understand, you started writing very early, I believe at the age of 6. Is that correct?
It's correct.
So could you tell us a little bit about how that came about?
Of course, David. Well, everything started when my grandpa, who was a poet, showed me his work, and I decided to present that on my school. And I remember presenting one of his poems in front of my classmates, and there was also a contest. And I remember that I got into second place because I laughed at the last minute in front of everyone. So I got in the second place at the end. But I wanted to write more. And I told my grandpa, hey, what about if I create more poems like you? And he told me, okay, you are free to do it. And I started writing poems, but my poems started to be like narratives. And I told later my grandpa, okay, my poems are not as good as yours. I'm going to prefer to create stories, short stories, or other things that are more action packed. And then my mom always, when she had the opportunity, she always said to me, okay, let's go to the movies and watch whatever movie it's right now, no? And I remember watching a lot of Atlantis movies. I remember going to see Shrek when I was 3 years old, so it was a really nice experience. And other stories I started to watch, no, such as Spider-Man and also other Disney movies. And then I decided to create more stories based on what I was seeing. And then I remember there was a contest in my school about for writing short stories. No, I remember writing a fan fiction of Bambi. I remember, and in my classroom they told me, "Hey, your writing is really great. You should really focus yourself into that." But I thought, I don't think I'm not that good. So, but at the end, I decided to create more stories. And I remember one night especially, there was a huge story in the news about the hurricane season that was coming in 2005. I was 8 years old in that year, and I told my mom, "Hey, what is the hurricanes theme all about?" And I borrowed a book from my teachers, and I started reading them, and I decided to create a story about hurricanes. So then, a few months later, I saw the movie The Day After Tomorrow by Roland Emmerich, and I got really inspired because there was a specific scene that really got into me. First, the natural disasters that were happening in the movie. Also, there was the time where the American people wanted to refugee in Mexico. So I got really interested into that, and I told to myself, okay, what about if we create a story about American people and Mexican people? It would be a really nice combination, but with a touch of action like superheroes. And that night, I had a dream of me fighting a hurricane. And in the next morning, I decided to write that story. And I remember in the news again, they announced the Hurricanes 2007 season is coming. So that name struck into me, and I decided to create my story when I was 9 years old, titled Hurricanes 2007. And then I started writing other chapters of the story, and then I realized that I could write a novel. I don't know. For example, you remember there was this Twilight craze back in the late 2000s, in the late 2000s. And I decided, okay, my classmates are really excited for these stories. Also, Harry Potter was finishing its movies, and I wanted to do that. Also, I decided to create a saga inspired by those movies and also by Star Wars, because I was a big fan of Star Wars, superhero movies. Iron Man in 2008, I went to see it when I was 30 years old. So I really got into writing because of that things. And at the end, well, I think it worked. And the first book of Hurricanes 2007, I published it back in 2019. This is the first book. This is the title in Spanish. And I remember writing the book very passionately. But I remember also, because I was coming from a major of law in Mexico. My story at the beginning, it was like a plaintiff. So I decided to change some things, and at the end, the story worked, and also I got to translate it into English.
That sounds incredible. So a comment here from Hillary. She says it must be fantastic to dream up your plot. I actually can understand that, because when I'm writing, quite often I actually dream up sections of my books and even entire endings sometimes. So yeah, I mean, it's an incredible feeling when you can do that, for sure.
Of course, it was a really nice experience, and also because that dream also opened me the possibilities of more stories. So many more stories came the next few years, and also I went to see more movies and write more, and more stories came.
So you were saying that book that you just showed us is in Spanish. Do you publish in both Spanish and English?
Yes, Richard, I published it both because in my home country, I remember pitching the book to the big editorials, and they told me, okay, your story is really good, you have really nice characters, a great plot, but we don't think it's going to work here in Mexico, because right now in Mexico we want more stories about non-fiction things, and they didn't want to hear a fiction action story, so a science fiction story. So I got really disappointed for that, and I decided to translate it into English. And then in Twitter, many writing community members, hello to Titi Banks, Mario Delolio, AC Merkel, hello Scott, Stacy Cox, also from North Carolina, who really supported me in my journey, and they shared part of my work, and many people started to reaching to me and told me, okay, your story is really good. Why in Mexico they didn't accept that? And I told to them, I don't know, maybe because it was too much action. I don't know, but I I think many people, I want to thank to them because they really helped me in my journey, and also because writing in Spanish and English is really different. In Spanish, you write more about the character. In English, you want to tell more about the development of the story. It's different, but at the same time similar. So it was a really challenging thing to do.
Not interesting. I would never think that. My only question was, so how do you know? I know you speak English quite well, but doing the written language is sometimes, especially English is such a beast because there's so many words that mean so many different things, and if that's not your native tongue, to actually translate your Spanish rendition into English to make it sound the way you had it sounding in Spanish. How do you go about that? Did you actually do that yourself, or do you have someone else do that for you just to check it anyway?
All by myself, Richard. All by myself. I did all by myself, and also in the second story that already is published in English, called Hurricanes 2007: The Climatic Crisis. The second story, I really got help from my friends that I already mentioned, because they give me a lot of feedback. Because I remember in the first book, if you can see it, people in Amazon, the first book, I remember one review that one girl left, and she told me, okay, your story is really great, but you are dragging in some sentences, and also you need to improve a lot of your other words to make it work. So I got really into that message, and I decided to perfect the next story, and then it really got nice, the story.
I'm amazed because English is my only language and I still struggle to write it. So for you to do Spanish and English, I think that's amazing. So kudos to you. I just want to put this comment in here from another viewer. Says, "Love this so much. Great enthusiasm and talent, Dario." And that's so true. And again, I'm mesmerized that you're only 25 and you've done all this. And not only do you write, but you also. Sorry, I've got this written down here, and I'm just going to scroll down to it. You are also a radio you host a radio program called Literatura Actual, and I imagine that's based in Mexico City, correct?
No, it's based on Quebec, Canada.
Oh, really?
Yes, it's really because one of my friends in my writing journey, when I was growing as a writer, she is Graciela Echagüe. She's one of my mentors. I remember last year when I won the Youth Award in Mexico City because of my writing. She told me, would you like to host a radio program for a Latin Canadian people, or would you like also to share your thoughts on writing in the newspaper? And I told her, yes, why not? And I became the host of Today's Literature, that I usually share excerpts of some books. It doesn't matter if they are in Spanish or English. I already mentioned some of my American friends or British friends' works. So if you want, people, Richard, David, if you want to have a shout out in the program, don't worry. Just tell me, Dario, could you mention my books in your program? And don't worry, it's going to be for the Latin Canadian audience, and many people can hear more about your work, not only the English speakers, also the Latin speakers.
That's awesome.
That's great. Yeah, thank you. So,
And also, I collaborate in another magazine right now in South America. It's called Relatos Esmeraldeños in Spanish, but in English it would be Emerald Stories. It's from a city from Ecuador, and I normally collaborate there, so I can talk about the new boom of the literature world here in Hispanic America. Because right now, many young writers like me and other people here in Latin America, we want a new boom in the literature world, because we want more stories heard around the world, and also because I think many of my generation grew up with a lot of American content, British content. So right now, I think we have this combination of our Latin culture and the American culture, so or the Canadian culture. So it's nice to see many people like me writing these stories and really be passionate about.
so we got a comment from Wanda. She said, "Wow, good for you. That is true dedication and very inspiring."
Thank you, Wanda.
Absolutely, for sure. So that other magazine you're talking about, I also see there's a Latin-Canadian magazine, Hello Arte. Am I saying that right? Like, I have trouble with English, so I'm trying to do something else. And did you say that the Literatura Actual is actually based in Quebec?
Yes. It's because my friend, she lives in Quebec. She produces all the work there. I normally send her the programs send her the programs in WhatsApp, and she broadcasts that, or there's another word. She shares again the programs that I normally put in the radio, and she really knows how to do that. And also, she has the other magazine called Hello Arte. Hello Arte is also a magazine where we showcase many talents from around the world. And if you want, Richard, again, David, if you want to be included in the magazine, of course, if you can. Or only tell me, Dario, this is the story I would like to share, and we will share it in the magazine. The next magazine is coming on September, I think.
Well, we'd have to take you up on that, because if you're from Mexico City, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but Mexico City's population is probably a quarter of Canada's entire population. Mexico is a very, very big city, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that. What is the population of Mexico City?
The population of Mexico City, I think, is 120 million people.
120 million.
So
well, it's twice the size of Canada then. Oh, wow. Holy cow. Yeah, so we definitely have to break the Mexico City market for sure.
Yes,
that's all I have to do. I just have to write for Mexico City, and I've got it made.
All of my stories and all of the things I normally write about, it's about the connection between Mexico City and other parts of the world. In this case, I told you, I got this connection with the American Canadian people since I was really young, because my mom always, even if she cannot speak English well, she always tried to help me to improve my language, so I could communicate with others, and also to pitch projects, because I would love in the future one of my books to be turned into a movie. Speaking about other books, I have also this book. It's called The Three Wise Young Men. The Three Wise Young Men is a holiday theme book, because, as you know, Santa Claus brings the gifts to the children around the world. But in Latin America, especially here in Mexico, we have the tradition that three wizards came to our houses every January 6th in the evening, and they bring a lot of gifts. So I wanted to put that in this story, because, for example, when you want to send a letter to Santa, you always write it, and I don't know if you send it to the mail, or I don't know. Here in Mexico City, we normally put the letter in a balloon and send it to the sky. It's a really nice tradition every January 6th. My mom always wanted to me to have that tradition, and I remember having a good time because that day I remember in the Alameda Central is a place here in Mexico City. It's a plaza. There's normally a fair, so many children want to buy some toys and also buy food, no? And many want to take a picture with the three wise men, so with the three wizards and Santa Claus. So it's a really nice mix between the American culture, Canadian culture, and Mexican culture. So it's really nice.
So you mentioned, Dario, that some of the characters in your books have been based on yourself. And I understand that you also base some of them on friends and relatives. So I was kind of wondering, it's like, do you actually tell them that you're basing them on them, or do you let them find out for themselves when they read the book?
Every character that I wrote, as you told David, is really based on one of my family members or friends. When they read that, they really get really happy because they said, "Oh, you wrote about me, and I got to be in this story." So they really love that. There's nobody that already told me, "Okay, you wrote about me, and I'm really angry." No, everybody is loving to be mentioned in my books, and it's really nice.
That's terrific.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure I'd get away with that with my family and friends.
I don't think Dario kills his characters off, though, Dave.
Yeah, that's the trouble with my books. They tend to have a pretty high body count.
No. For example, David, in Hurricane Studio 7, I really got a really big body count because it's a really action-packed story. In the first book, I remember it was a little bit criticized because there was a lot of deaths in the first story. In the second one, there's not a lot, but in the third one, that is titled "The Virus of Extermination," you have zombies, you have this hurricane-like people. Also, you have the protagonist, and you see a lot of deaths. So I normally try to do different things in all my stories. Hurricanes is more for a mature audience. The Three Wise Young Men is more for a family audience. And right now I'm planning other two books that are also a family theme or general audience theme. Title Brigade DXT, the story of a Mexican kid and his friends trying to get into the Olympic Games. It will be a trilogy. Also, Latin Dancing. Latin Dancing is the story of a girl that gets into a video game of the same name, and she and her friends are going to win a tournament. Need to win a tournament so they can win the money and be the next stars of the Latin music of Latin music.
That's awesome. So you got 4 books out right now?
4 books right now, Richard. This is for children. This is the latest, and the 3 books: Hurricanes 1, Hurricanes 2, and Hurricanes 3.
And that, pardon the pun, but that blows me away. You have 4 books out already, and you're 25. I'm just wondering, listening to your energy and everything else, like CJ said, that what do you foresee in Dario's future 5 years from now?
I really, what I told you, I would love to see my work adapted into a movie, into a series. I would love to have more presentations around the world. Right now, I'm going to have one in one of my friends' cities. I'm going to present my books this Saturday at 5 p.m. And in Canada, well, my friend Graciela wants to me to present some books for the Latin public, and also I would love to for the Canadian people. I would love to do it. Also, congratulations, Richard. I saw that you are going to present your books in the Canadian Expo, I think.
Yes, yes.
Congratulations again.
No,
And also I would love to travel more, to present my stories and give more talks to the children, so they can write stories just like me as I was a child when that I was dreaming. No, so I think I have a lot of plans. Sorry because I'm babbling a lot.
no worries.
I not normally I normally don't talk like this when I'm speaking English, but I'm really excited for this.
No, that's great. No, this show's all about you, Dario. So you be bubbly all you want.
So I spotted on your Twitter feed that last year you received a very special award. Would you like to tell us something about that?
Of course, David. Well, it was actually this year. This year, actually, it
Oh,
was.
sorry, this year.
But in the last year, I'm going to tell you all the story. First, I won the Queer Indie Awards from this organization, Queer Indie. Queer Indie is an organization based in United States that is from my friends Mario Delolio and Titi Banks and Halo Scott. And they invited me to participate in these people voting contests. And I won the award, their inaugural award, because many people loved my story. And in the next few months, I won the Youth Award in my city. The Youth Award is normally awarded to all people aged from 10 years old to 29 years old. So I won in the category of artistic merit. So it was really, really nice. And then in these months, I won the arts medal in Mexico City's Congress. I got to speak in front of the deputies of my city. If you want to see it, it's on YouTube. My speech, and it was really nice because I was the youngest winner of that medal at 24 years old. So it was really nice.
Wow, congratulations.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
And right now there's another contest that I want to participate. It's the National Youth Award because the last year I won the Mexico City one, the statal, and now I want to win the national because it would be really nice to represent Mexico City in this against other states of my country. So I want to win that. The award is going to be on December, but right now they are still waiting to put the letter to other people. So I'm waiting for that award, and I would like really to win that.
Wow.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I want to ask you, the odd person we have come on here. Right now, I'm in the throes of editing my book, and some people love doing it, some people hate it. I actually don't mind doing it. It's just time consuming. How do you actually go about editing your book once it's done? Are you one of those people that let it sit for a while and then you come back to it? Do you jump on it right away? And what's the editing process for you after that? It's like obviously you do it yourself, but you must have other eyes on it as well. What's the process for editing for Dario?
Okay. Well, my editing process is normally like this. I write all the story, and I normally try to put it in an order. I got first into the introduction, the development, the climax, and all, and at the end, the epilogue. So the editing process is really, I think, easy for me because I already have pictured the story. I already made when I was a kid and also 10 years ago the story. So I right now I only putting some parts or new parts in the story that I already wrote. And that is my editing process. It's really simple, because of my love to write less, but to write more about my characters.
Yeah, my editing process takes forever. It seems like it's going quick. I actually edit every day. If I write 5,000 words today, I'll edit 5,000 tomorrow. But as soon as I'm done the book, I'll edit again. I think, Dave, you throw yours on the shelf for a while, do you not?
I do, yes. I put mine on the shelf for a minimum of a month and do something else, and then come back to it so that I can look at it with sort of fresh eyes. Yeah. So you mentioned, Dario, you write for actually a very diverse audience. So could you tell us, I mean, do you find that, that it's challenging to change your writing style for the different audiences, or does it come fairly easy to you?
It's really challenging, David, because as I told you first in the early, writing in English is really more about the development of the story, I think. And in Spanish, it's more about the character. So, for example, if I want to write a joke, in Spanish it's going to be funny, but maybe the English speakers are not going to understand it. So I try to create neutral jokes so many people can understand it. And also, I try to watch a lot of American movies, British movies, so I could understand more the humor. Because, for example, I think here in Mexico and Latin America, we have a special way of writing jokes. For example, there's a phrase in Spanish, no? Call it, ¿qué te pasa, calabaza, no? It's funny in the Spanish, but you are not going to understand it in English. So I need to write, for example, what's the matter, bro? Or what about this? Or I don't know. I can show you the way from the mix. So there is different. It's different the process, David. It's very different, and I think that's the cultural shock that many people tell me, because they say, okay, it's really hard to write in English, but it's also very hard to write in Spanish. One of my friends actually wanted to translate his work, and he told me, how do you do it to make it work to the American, to the Canadian, to the English speakers, to make it work, this story? And I told him, just make it neutral. Write a really good story. And if you want, write some notes so the American, the British, the English speakers can understand that joke. And maybe when they come to Latin America, they can understand that joke. Okay, for example, Dario told me this joke in Spanish is really funny. So when I come to Latin America, I'm going to laugh at that. Or when they are going to come to your country, they are going to understand the jokes that you have. So it's really nice, that thing. But also it's really complicated because sometimes it's really difficult in the writing process, as Richard told. In the editing process, that part is really difficult, because how do you do it to make it work, and how you can get in the audience to understand the message that you want to show. For example, in Hurricanes 2007, it was really easy. It's an action-packed story, so it doesn't have a lot of, okay, there's this culture or whatever. But for example, in the 3 Weeks Young Men, I needed to explain to the audience what is this holiday about, because it's similar to Santa Claus in Christmas, but at the same time it's different. So that is the thing between the both languages, David.
Yeah, I think that humor must be incredibly difficult to translate, because, I mean, even like when there isn't actually a language barrier, there are cultural barriers. I mean, for instance, I'm originally from England, and English humor is completely different to, for instance, American humor. And like, Americans will laugh at things like in movies and stuff like that, and I'm kind of sat there going, huh? And vice versa. It's like, British people will be laughing, like, kind of like rolling on the floor, and like Americans are kind of going, what? And so it's like, I mean, it's incredibly difficult to translate humor between cultures, and doing that between cultures and languages just, well, to me that sounds impossible, but you're obviously successful at it.
Yeah, for example, David, in the case of England, I normally watched a lot of Monty Python sketches. So I got to that because I wanted to learn more about the British way of pranks. And also my late aunt usually put Mr. Bean on the TV. So I really understood that pranks. And also in Canada, that you have Just for Lots on YouTube. So I'm really big fan of that kind of stuff. But also here in Mexico City or Mexico in general, we had a lot of Latin prank shows. No, I don't know if you have heard about Eugenio Derbez. Eugenio Derbez right now here in Hollywood, he's making a lot of movies. Eugenio with Jennifer Garner and other actors. Right now, I think he was part of the cast of Coda that won the Oscars year. He's a really famous comedian here in Mexico, and the humor that he normally uses. As a kid, I normally laugh at that, but in the American audience, his jokes are really different. But that's the difference.
So I want to ask you, you brought up Monty Python. So being from Latin America and you originally watching Monty Python, did you find it funny or did you find it not funny? And I'm not trying to put you on the spot because like David said, every culture sees things differently. And Monty
No,
Python is kind of an acquired taste, or you have to have a lot of alcohol in you, one or the other.
no, in this case, no, Richard. I understood the pranks because, as I told you, my aunt, she normally put a lot of British television when I was a kid. So I really got to understand the pranks, the jokes of British people. Not all, but I really like them, and I wanted to hear more about more different jokes, not only the Latin American ones.
Mm-hmm. No, I appreciate the cleverness of all different cultures, how they make jokes and stuff like that. And it's the play on words and the play on society. It's so interesting to see how different cultures do it. Absolutely. So,
Other thing I want to mention, Richard, before finishing,
yeah.
other things that I think inspired me were the Nickelodeon shows, because I was a big fan of Nickelodeon. Soy 101, Victorious, Karen Valentine from Ariana Grande. Also, I think it was Nets Declassified. Many programs from my childhood that really got into me. And in this case, I told you, Disney, Pixar movies, DreamWorks movies were really my favorites when I was growing.
Yeah, one thing I want to ask you before we wrap this up, and you started writing when you're 5 or 6, you said, and you've been writing obviously ever since. So, what kind of advice do you have for someone who's just starting out and they're kind of pondering, maybe I want to be a writer? What advice do you have? Like a simple piece of advice that might stick with them.
Okay, my advice to every young writer or not so young writer is write the story that you really want to have show in the world. If you have a great story, please showcase your story, and many people will like that. Even, for example, E.L. James created 50 Shades of Grey, and not many people like that. But at the end, many people also love their story.
Mm-hmm.
Twilight, I didn't like that as a kid, but many of my classmates really love that story. So just put the story in front, and many people are going to really appreciate that. I think that's my advice.
Oh, absolutely. That's so true. I always tell people that as popular as Stephen King and J.K. Rowling and Margaret Atwood and all these popular writers are, if you look on Amazon and you look at the reviews, they've got a lot of negative one-star reviews. You know, some people are haters just naturally, but a lot of them just, that's not for them. Like Stephen King is not for you, but Dario might be. So you just got to find your audience. Absolutely.
Of course.
For sure.
So I want to thank you for coming on, Dario. I really appreciate it, and I think I think I speak for Dave as well. I think that's amazing that you've done what you've done already, and you're only 25. My hat's off to you, and I wish you much success going forward. And I don't think I have to wish you luck because I think you've already got this. So it'd be interesting to see where you actually are in 5 years, and let's hope that we see your name across the screen. That would be really cool.
Oh,
so.
yeah.
So what's the next book that we can expect from you, and when is it coming out?
Okay, the next book is going to be Brigade DXT. It's coming this September, and in December it's going to be Latin Dancing. Those will be the next two books I'm going to publish.
So you've got two coming out this year.
Two come. Two are
That's
coming.
awesome. And they're going to be in Latin and English, or just they start off in Latin and then you switch them over?
They're going to be in English also. I'm planning to translate them, so don't worry. There's going to be a lot of that. But also, normally when I'm doing my trailers in YouTube, they are normally in English, so you can understand the story, and it will be great to see that working in English.
That's great. I don't know if you can see the screen there, Dario. But Wanda saying, "Great show tonight. You are one cool dude, Dario."
Thank you, Wanda. Thank you.
And Hillary saying, "Amazing talent," and I totally agree. That's awesome. I know you've got a great future ahead of you. So, and where can people find your books? They're obviously on Amazon, but do you have them anywhere else, or how do we find books from Dario?
Well, right now it's only in Amazon for the American British people, but in Latin America, if any Latino is hearing this, it's also in a library in one of the states of my country called Pachuca. And also you can write me in my Facebook page. Already, I think Richard put that in the video. I don't know. But if you want to reach me out in my social media, I'm in Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram as Hurricane Dario or as Darío Aguilar Peregrina.
Awesome. Again, thanks for coming on today, Dario. And before we leave, no, go ahead, Dario.
Another thing, Richard, David, and all your audience. Again, if you want to share your stories or anything, please reach out with me, and we can book you in the next programs of Today's Literature or Literatura Actual for the Latin-Canadian radio, or also for an interview in Hello Arte programs. So if you want David, Richard to be in one of our programs, please reach me or one of your friends. We have a lot of events through the year. In the last days, we had an Arts International Congress. So in December, we're going to have a virtual book presentation. If you want to present your books, please reach me out and we can book you in the event. It's totally free. So don't worry, you don't have to pay anything.
No, that's awesome. I definitely will do that. As soon as I get through these Windwalker edits, which will be within the next couple of weeks, I will definitely get a hold of you. Thank you for that.
Thank you again, Richard. Thank you again, David.
So before we go, Dave, you're talking off air, and I know not everyone's privy to what's going on with your writing behind the scenes, but I am. What's the latest in the? I guess it's not really the Joe Ballon world, but it's more Logan Twofeather's world. What's happening?
Yeah, so I am incredibly close to finishing the third book in the Logan's World series. I basically have 2 more scenes to write. I was hoping to get it finished over the weekend, but a few other things cropped up and I wasn't able to. And I'm now kind of like, well, it's kind of 90,000+ words now that I've got down. And yeah, 2 scenes from the end, and I am sort of just dying to get to the end and finish it, and celebrate.
Then what? What do you do now? So you're going to put that on the shelf, and what's happening in the gap?
In the gap, I will be writing the next. What's going to be next? Actually, I'm trying to think. The next Hyperion Jones novel will be.
Okay, I was wondering if that was coming out. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. That will be the next one.
That's a nice little break for you.
Yeah, that will be a nice break because there's no kind of realism in the Hyperion Jones book. It's just it's kind of Monty Python's Dario. It's kind of Monty Python's in space. So yeah, so that's what's going on with me. Plus a few other things, kind of like personal things, but that's kind of like another story. So how about yourself, Richard?
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Like Dario mentioned, I'm a guest author at the Fan Expo in Toronto this week, and it starts on Thursday, and we actually have to drive to Toronto. See, and it's funny because we were talking about Mexico City, and I dread driving to Toronto. And I think the population was 2.7 something million for Toronto itself. It's got the suburbs around it, which make it a bit bigger, but Toronto would be like a suburb of Mexico City. So I can't even imagine what traffic and everything would be like in Mexico City. So I'm glad I don't have to drive there, but I'll be driving up tomorrow afternoon to set up my booth at the Metro Toronto Convention Center. And it's right beside the CN Tower and the Sky Dome and everything else. It's going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be a lot of stress, I think, at first, just getting in there and set up. But once we're there for 4 days. We're there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'm doing a couple panels. I'll be on a panel Friday about fantasy creatures and another panel on Sunday, again, to do with fantasy. So I'm looking forward to that. And Windwalker is almost 170,000 words now. Normally when I edit, my book doesn't go up or down in word count, really, but it's gone up a little bit, and I can see it going up a bit more. So it's it's about 670 pages now, and I dread to find out what my printer's going to charge me to print that book. But that's what's going on with me.
You've run out of words by now, Richard. I mean, there aren't any left.
Yeah, you got to wonder. I can say she shrugged. If I say she shrugged like 100,000 times, I can really fill that book up. So. I think that's my pet word. Like when everyone has this one word that they use over and over and over again. My characters always seem to shrug. So anyway, next week's guest on Lurking for Legends is Lori Schneider from the Writers' Happiness Movement. Lori is an author, teacher, yoga instructor, and speaker who has always been enthralled with the places where creativity, science, ethics, and joy intersect. This would be interesting to know where that is. I'd like to find it. This has taken her through many careers and fields of study. She has been a marine biologist, an outdoor educator, a dancer, a fourth grade teacher, and a freelance book editor. Since 2015, she has run retreats for writers that offer distraction-free writing time with a yoga chaser. That sounds interesting. Which were the inspiration for the Writers' Happiness Movement. And her middle grade fantasy, The Circus at the End of the Sea, has been nominated for the Pushcart Prize. I'm not sure what that is. I'll have to look that up. She is also a big believer in idealism and the ferocity of the human heart, and is the world's best cheerleader for anyone following their dream or trying to change the world. So we look forward to next week and speaking with Lori Schneider. So before we sign off again, Dario, thank you very much for joining us all the way from Mexico City. I think you're the first person we've had from actually in Mexico when we talked to them. So congratulations on that. You don't really win an award for it, but
okay, it's an honor.
It was an honor for us to talk to you. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you again, guys. See you.
So for David, myself, and Christy, who sends her regrets tonight, until we meet again, take good care.
Good night.